Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm glad you joined me today. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson, and today we're going to talk about something that we see in cattle all the time, and sometimes we don't take the time to explain what's happening. It's called bloat. We're going to discuss bloat, different strategies, why it happens, how to treat it, how to prevent it. Thanks for joining me. More after these messages.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson here from the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, where I serve as the Jones Professor of Production Medicine and Epidemiology. And today we're going to talk about something that is a cattle disease or syndrome that is associated with nutrition. And really what we're talking about is bloat. And when we talk about bloat in cattle, there are two types of bloat that we're going to discuss. One is the frothy bloat, and two is free gas. And so they're both kind of self-explanatory when you start to think about it. When I think about frothy bloat, it is cattle that are on legumes or cattle that are on wheat pasture. And what happens is, in that rumen, when we get the intake of these lush forages that are high in proteins, high in tannins, we can get a froth that is built up. And whether it's a foam or a froth from the interaction of the microbes in the rumen with the tannins in these rich legumes or this in rich wheat pasture, we'll get this frothy bloat. And when you tube a calf or if you puncture a calf in the rumen, you'll see the froth just keep coming out. The other type of bloat is called a free gas bloat, and this is due to increased production of gas whenever we have the rumen microbes and this is more common in a feedlot situation or more common in a calf that's on a grain diet. What'll happen is that we'll get a bout of acidosis or decreased pH of that rumen. When that happens, sometimes the animal's contractions in the rumen or the ability of that animal to burp or eructate gas out of the rumen is the sensors or the stretch receptors in that rumen don't work quite right. And so when those don't work, that animal's not able to belch or eructate and give off that gas, so we get a bloated situation. Now, the clinical signs of bloat are pretty straightforward. We're going to look at the animal from behind or look at him from the front. The rumen of the animal is where the bloat occurs, and that's located on the left side of its body. And when we think of left side of a calf's body, it's that. It's not us looking the left side at what we're looking at. It is the left ear, the left leg, the left side is where the rumen's located. When we have a zero, we grade bloats 0, 1, 2, and 3. A 0 is no distension on either side of the calf. A bloat score of 1 is starting to get a slight distension on the left side of the animal where the rumen's located. On the right side is just the intestines, the small intestine, large intestine, colon. When we start to get to a bloat score of 2, we'll have severe distension on the left side of the animal, but the right side will be normal. And then when we have the most severe score of bloat of a 3, we will see distension of both sides of the animal, and we'll call it kind of a papal shape. We'll have it rounded on the left side and kind of a pear shape on the right side. So 0 normal, 3 is severe, and when we get a severe, when we talk to people out on wheat pasture research, when you have a calf that has a bloat score of 3, that animal will be chronically affected and have decreased performance the rest of its life. We're going to talk more about bloat. We'll talk about why it happens, how you can treat these animals, what you can do with them after they've had that syndrome. More to come. Thanks for watching DocTalk. See you after these messages.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agamandkansas.com. DocTalk, brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook, or visit us online at sftmeats.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here from Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where I serve as the Jones Professor of Production Medicine and Epidemiology, and we're talking about bloat. And so whether we have animals that are on grain diets or animals that we're kicking out on wheat pasture, we're going to run into bloat. And when we start to think about bloat and the cause of bloat, there are the two syndromes, right? We have frothy bloat on wheat pasture if you have them kicked out on alfalfa. And then we'll have the free gas bloat, which is predominantly the type of bloat that we see when we have animals on grain. So when we're looking at our show cattle, or we're looking at cattle that are in feedlots on finish ration, we're talking more about free gas bloat. And when we're talking about the calves kicked out on wheat, we're talking about frothy. Now, the reason why we see this and the risk association with bloat is different for different types of syndromes. So on the frothy bloat, the number one risk factor for frothy bloat on wheat pasture is over-application of fertilizer. In other words, if we over-fertilize, or if we put more fertilizer on the wheat pasture than we did the year before, we get more lush growth, and we put the same number of cattle, there's more material out there with the same number of cattle. And so when a storm pattern comes through, cattle are genetically or evolutionarily will go in right before a storm. They see the drop and feel the drop in barometric pressure, and they will consume more before the storm, because then they'll go and they'll hole up or wait until the storm passes and come back out. The ruminant animal can store about 5 to 7 days worth of food supply in the rumen. So in other words, if a calf stops eating today and a storm comes through, it'll take 5 to 7 days before the rumen empties. So they'll go out and they'll consume too much. And I think more times than not, when we see problems with bloat, it has more to do with weather patterns and availability of feed stuff than anything. So when we look at frothy bloats, the first thing we have to do is we have to make sure that we're applying the right amount of fertilizer, make sure we have the right amount of growth. If we're going to add fertilizer, we need to add animals to take care of some of those. You can have some preventatives that we're going to talk about as well. On free gas bloats, this is a sequela or a sequel to something that happened before. In most bloats, prior to bloat occurring in the animal, we will see an increase in grain overload, which will cause acidosis. Acidosis will cause the reduction in the pH in the rumen from them overtraining on the grain. That will decrease or change the rumen microbes, which will then lead to more acid production in the rumen, which knocks out the stretch receptors and doesn't allow that animal to eructate or release the gas. The other thing that can happen with bloat in the feedlot pen, so it's really important that you understand where the animals are located, is what we call overbalance. And the term overbalance could be a mound that's too steep, and we've seen cattle, they'll get their feet uphill and then they can't stand up. So you have to roll them over so that their feet are downhill and they can stand up. If a calf gets its feet uphill and it's laying down, or if it's laying in an indention, the gas bubble will actually move to the ventral side, or to the side where the animal then can't belch. And if they can't get up, they'll actually continue to increase gas production in the rumen, not be able to eructate, and so we see some things to that nature. When we come back, we're going to talk about how to treat free gas and frothy bloat. You're watching Doc Talk. Thanks for joining us. More after these messages.
The BQA Tip of the Day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vetmedica Inc.
Hello folks, this is Dr. Nels Lindberg with Animal Medical Center and Production Animal Consultation out of Great Bend, Kansas. Today's BQA Tip of the Day, we're going to visit about branding these cattle. Branding is a common procedure done throughout the United States and the world, but it's very important that we do the best we can to do that brand efficiently and in a timely manner. These cattle here turned out on right. We often brand these sort of cattle when they're turned out of confinement so that if something happens, they get spooked, they get out, we have a means of identification of those animals for that producer. There's many different producers out there. They all have their different brands. But again, the important thing when we are branding these cattle is to have adequate restraint and to be able to do that brand in a timely manner. We want to make sure our brands are functioning properly, whether it's electric or if they're still being fired by propane or wood. We want to make sure that brand is good and hot so that we use the minimum amount of time to brand those animals. Again, adequate restraint and a properly functioning brand are keys to successfully branding cattle in a good and proper manner for that animal. Thank you.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com. Broadband has become as important to us as highways. That is why DocTalk is teaming up with NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, and rural broadband companies like Blue Valley Telecommunications in fighting for quality broadband access through the program Smart Rural Communities.
I don't think we have any idea what's coming in the future. I couldn't have imagined 5 years ago what we're doing today. So in 2 years, I would guess there's things we can't imagine that we're going to be doing.
To learn more, visit ntca.org/smart or bluevalley.net.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. DocTalk, brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan here from DocTalk. Thanks for joining me today. We're talking about bloat in cattle, and it's something that occurs commonly, and we're going to talk about treatment of bloat now. So if we have cattle out on wheat pasture and you pull in, and here's one that's a bloat score 1. A bloat score 1 is a minor bloat. It's just a puffiness on the left side of the body, and so those animals are probably not going to treat. But once I get to the bloat score 2 with severe distension on the left side and definitely a bloat score 3, those animals need to be pulled in and we need to treat them. You can be assured that most cattle on wheat pasture are going to be of the frothy bloat variety. Therefore, when we treat them. And the best way to find out if they're frothy bloat or free gas is to pass an orogastric tube. So we'll take an orogastric tube or a stomach tube, and the first thing you want to do is put a speculum in the mouth of the steer. Because if you don't and you pass a rubber tube, those molars on the back side of that cow's mouth or that steer's mouth will chew that tube in half. And that's not a good thing to have happen, because when you pass that tube halfway down, the calf chews the orogastric tube off, you're going to wind up with half the tube in the rumen and the other half in your hand. Not a good situation. So have a metal or plastic speculum that you're going to pass that'll guard that tube from being chewed in two. You're going to pass the tube, and then you'll want to blow on the tube a couple of times to get feed stuff out away from the end of the tube, and you'll know pretty quick then whether you have a frothy bloat or free gas. If you have free gas, you'll actually have gas coming out. You'll see the sides starting to not be as distended. If it's frothy, you'll actually have the froth come up the tube. If it is frothy bloat, leave the orogastric tube in. Have your TheraBloat, which is paloxylene. Paloxylene will come in a 1 ounce treatment vial, and you will take that and mix that with a pint of water, and then you'll pass that 1 ounce of TheraBloat in the pint of water into the rumen. You can add more water if you want. It'll disperse evenly, and what that does is that starts to break that surface tension of the froth and will help that animal decrease the frothy bloat. Sometimes you have to retreat these animals. Sometimes they become chronic frothy bloaters, and those animals need to be railed. If it's a free gas bloat, when you pass the orogastric tube, you will start to get the gas to come out, okay? Now, my rules on treatment of calves with free gas bloat, because we'll see these as repeat customers as well, is that I will treat them. I have the 3 strikes and they're out rule. I will let them down, let the gas down 3 times. On the 3rd time, I'm gonna make a decision. Either I'm gonna put a fistula in the side of the animal, which is an actual open hole from the rumen outside the side of the animal. We can stitch the rumen wall to the hide of the calf, and he can let free gas go out continuously, and that will take about 6 months to a year to close. Or I'm going to rail that animal or sell it for salvage slaughter. It's the 1 or 2 things, because if they continuously come in, you're going to wind up having that, and the animal's either going to wind up dying or from bloat, or you're going to wind up continuously having to treat them to let them down. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about emergency treatment of bloat on your farm with your cattle, which is really important to understand and know. Thanks for watching Doc Talk. Thanks for being with us today. More about bloat and emergency treatment when we come back after these messages.
Hello, I'm Dr. Frank Lyons from Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center here in Manhattan, Kansas. Daryl was one of our patients that we did about 7 months ago.
I dug trees by hand for years and years and years. In the process, I wore out my rotator cuff. But when I learned about this process, I thought if there's a way to get rid of this pain, then I want to do it. So we did it, and it worked. And I'm not going to go out and dig trees with a shovel anymore, but I can do the things that I want to do now.
Well, it's been very gratifying to help people with their painful joints and other entities. And it's been especially gratifying to be able to help people who I know and have worked with and known for many years.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. A high-energy, drought-tolerant crop, sorghum only requires 6 inches of water to produce the first bushel. And with its wide uses and easy adaptation, sorghum proves to be a truly indispensable crop. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer, Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher. Get the new hired hand for yourself or become a distributor. Visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here. We're talking about bloat in cattle. So now you walk out to the pen and you have a steer that's severely distended. This calf is a bloat score 3. It's distended, round on the left side, pear shape on the right side, and it's not functioning appropriately. So we're in an emergency situation when this happens. The first thing that you're going to want to do is remember that the rumen is on the left side of the animal, not the right side of the animal. So if we're going to do an emergency treatment of that animal in the pen, we're going to puncture the animal through the paralumbar fossa, or through the left side, as you can see in this picture, high on the left side at the apex of where that rumen is distended. So when we do this, we want to make sure that we use something that's extremely sharp. If you puncture the animal on the right side of its body, you're not going to hit the rumen, you're not going to hit where the gas is, you're going to actually hit intestines. So make sure on the left side of the body, okay? The first thing you have to understand is do not let the animal lay down. An animal that's severely bloated that lays down and then you go to the house to find a pocket knife or a bloat needle, that animal will die from suffocation before you get back to it. Once they lay down and they're super distended, the animal's not going to make it. So this is an emergency situation. So you can have a bloat needle, and I suggest to a lot of people that own feed yards or that are feeding cattle to have a bloat needle on their person. And the bloat needle is in this picture here, and you can see that there is a trocar and a stylus that goes down through it. This is extremely sharp. And you can puncture that animal on the left side, pull the stylus out, and you have that trocar that's going through, that's allowing the release of the pressure, and that animal will immediately have relief. We have emergency trocars that you can use that will create a fistula in the side of that animal, and these actually, you can see from this picture, you puncture and then you screw, and it'll actually screw that rumen wall and screw the outside hide in that paralumbar fossa together, and will give you a couple of days to take that animal for salvage slaughter. The other thing, the last resort, is if you see the animal and you need to use a pocket knife or something to that nature, you can. Now, two things to understand about this. Number one, there's a reason why they make footballs out of cowhide. It's tough. So you need a sharp knife. And two, you do not want to have a jackknife that has a flexible blade. Make sure you have something that's a lock blade or something that is solid handle to the knife. I have used a pocket knife once to puncture, and that thing came shut on my fingers. Do not use a Bowie knife, okay? There is some anatomy on the left side of that animal, and you will cause some damage. So a short 4 to 6 inch blade, lock blade for your safety if you're going to use that to puncture an animal. Never let an animal with bloat lay down. Emergency situation, have the proper tools in place. You can work with your veterinarian. He'll have those tools, or she will have those tools at her clinic, and then you can utilize them on your farm or ranch. Thanks for watching the show today. Remember, if you want to find us on the web, you can go to www.doctalktv.com. Always work with your local veterinarian. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson here from DocTalk. Thanks for watching us, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agamandkansas.com.